All right, so that was the long-anticipated joint statement and brief press conference by the Prime Ministers of India and the United Kingdom, Narendra Modi and David Cameron. Several things were said. Joining me live now on this discussion as we go through some of the salient points made in that joint statement and the questions that both the leaders took shortly thereafter. KC Singh, former diplomat and secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs. Also with me is one of India's best known image consultants and columnists, Harish Bijur, joining me live from Bengaluru. KC Singh with me live from Delhi. Mr. Singh, if I could come to you first, your big takeaway. It's a general question, but, you know, given the huge amount of anticipation for this particular visit, and I hope you had a chance to listen to some of the things that were said in that joint statement, sir, what would you say are the big takeaways?
I think President Cameron was more precise and summed it up in his last answer to the question. He called it a modern dynamic partnership, and that's what we were discussing earlier on another channel, that really Britain is redefining its relationship with two major countries in Asia.
Yeah.
That's China and India, and therefore it is no surprise that 3 weeks ago Prime Minister Modi was preceded by President Xi, and they gave him the full treatment, almost the kind of treatment that Prime Minister Modi is getting. But essentially it's Britain now looking for a new kind of relationship. There's foreign direct investment from India into Britain, greater than that from any other European country. Britain itself is number 3 as far as foreign direct investment is concerned. Clean technology, cyber, things ranging from terrorism, cyber terrorism, skilling up. These are mostly things that Mr. Modi has talked about from the beginning. But till now it's been largely talk. So it's a question of how do you square the circle? How do you really do the scaling up?
Yes.
How do you train 500 million people? How do you clean the cities? How do you get smart cities? So now Prime Minister Cameron is trying to fill it in.
Yes.
3 cities have been shortlisted. Others a much longer list. What technologies are there? So it's I think a whole broad field that is available, where Britain is looking for a redefined relationship with India, which is different, as you put it, from the encumbrances of the past.
Absolutely. The encumbrances of the past, a matter of great speculation, both political and otherwise. Harish Bijur, another point that I quickly want to, dwell on before we move on to the other substantive parts of this joint statement. The issue of intolerance, we knew that it was going to come up in this press conference, and it actually happened to be the first question that was asked, to the Prime Minister. A journalist from the BBC sprang using his first opportunity to ask that question about intolerance. Given the body language so far, Harish, and the pressure that has sort of built as far as Narendra Modi is concerned. Everyone's written about how, the Modi going to the UK this time is a Modi who's just lost a big election in Bihar, subdued in mind. What did you make of his reply, Harish?
Well, I think, what I like about this press conference was that the questions were so much in the eye, into the eye, it was in the face, it was straight out there.
Yeah.
And I think Prime Minister Modi, right in the beginning, was a bit discomfited, but I think he answered it well at the end of the day. The key point is that the challenges are common, and I think the world is flat today, and I think both the Prime Ministers have really defined the fact that, hey, listen, forget the past. We are talking about the future, and as far as the future is concerned, we are on equal footing as far as Britain is concerned or India is concerned with the same common challenges.
Absolutely. I want to quickly bring in, gentlemen, stay with me. I want to quickly bring in, a live report. Lavina Tandon, India Today's correspondent, was at that press conference. She joins us live right now. A large, wide range of questions that were thrown to the two prime ministers, Lavina. Both of them, managing to spend a little bit of time charting out this relationship, given the huge expectations from the both of them from this very brief visit.
Yes, very huge expectations. See, it is very important, this visit, because of course Prime Minister David Cameron has been thrice, but this is in 9 years that any Indian Prime Minister is coming, and that question was clearly raised. But there are very important developments that have come from the joint address, and huge feats in terms of, number one, to support India for the EU trade. Free trade is quite an important thing, to support them in the UN Security Council, also to accept that,
yes,
that in the defense area, which which is where India can really take from Britain and benefit from Britain, to have the Make in India, transfer of technology or Make in India, support them, his Make in India initiative in the defence, also in infrastructure, and a combined effort to bring on the clean energy and climate change. That is an extremely important take. I think as Prime Minister Cameron started his joint statement by saying that he is very keen that this partnership, which has a history, becomes historical. This visit becomes historical. It's a historic visit, and we should take this to a next level and start a new partnership, a modern partnership,
Yes,
with common concerns and common challenges. And the joint statement does show that they have pledged to do something quite huge, and now action needs to, and more will be done. As he said, they will be discussing more about terrorism, which is a very key point between the two countries
Yes.
at this point in time at checkers.
all right. So many substantive things touched upon in this wide-ranging meeting that took place between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Cameron. KC Singh, Prime Minister Cameron was asked about, the fact that, touched upon the fact that Narendra Modi wasn't welcome in the United Kingdom before this. As a diplomat, sir, tell us how this really works, in a meeting of this kind, when both the leaders are aware about the recent past, the complexion of the relationship, even the interpersonal sort of relationship between Cameron and Modi, Modi having been banned as far as the UK was concerned. How do things move ahead in that kind of atmosphere and in the knowledge that that's happened in just the recent past? Because that was a question, Mr. Singh.
2002 was done and dusted.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have been an issue if it wasn't for the degeneration of the public discourse in the Bihar election and a series of events that took place where Prime Minister was either silent or spoke too late or did not really take any action.
Right.
Therefore, when he answered the BBC reporter's question, he's made all the right noises, but the question will be that they've come a month too late and there is yet action not seen.
Right. So
it's one thing to
you're
give an
saying they
assurance
didn't
in
follow.
England. But why wasn't this? Why wasn't this kind of a statement coming the minute his ministers came out with unacceptable statements? His own president of the party said patakas in Pakistan, and so on and so forth. So on each one of those occasions, as the public discourse degenerated in Bihar and Prime Minister seemed to join in the chase, I think that is where concerns revived.
Okay.
New York Times has written 2 pieces. Economist wrote a piece, is just there in the latest Economist. Writers started rallying. Indian writers started returning their awards. And that is where the question mark resurfaced on really, as the Economist magazine asked in the last line of their piece.
Okay.
The suspicion is that Mr. Modi agrees with these people who are doing all this. So therefore, he's had to re-answer the question because of what has happened in the last 4 weeks.
Okay, so the silence has, implied, complicity or endorsement to many, especially in the international press. Harish, I'm just going to bring you in on the, the substance of that particular answer. I want to know what you think, but just for a moment, I want to take our viewers through that in case they missed what Narendra Modi said, because let's face it, this is, as KC Singh also pointed out, could be too little, too late, perhaps rings a little hollow right now, but this is the first time that Prime Minister Modi has spoken directly about the intolerance issue. It happened to be the first question that he was asked at that press conference. Here's what he said.
भारत ये बुद्ध की धरती है, भारत ये गांधी की धरती है, और इसलिए हमारे संस्कारों में एक बात हमारी रगों में है कि समाज के मूलभूत मूल्यों के खिलाफ किसी भी बात को भारत स्वीकार नहीं करता है, और इसलिए हिंदुस्तान के किसी भी कोने में कोई भी घटना घटे, भारत के लिए वो घटना 1 हो या 2 हो या 3 हो, 125 करोड़ के देश में एक घटना का महत्व है कि नहीं है, ये हमारे लिए मायना नहीं रखता है। हमारे लिए हर घटना गंभीर होती है, हम इसको किसी भी हालत में टॉलरेट नहीं करते हैं। कानून कठोरता से कार्रवाई करता है और करेगा, और भारत एक वाइब्रेंट डेमोक्रेसी है जो संविधान के तहत सामान्य से सामान्य नागरिकी के जीवन को हर प्रकार की सुरक्षा, उसके विचारों की रक्षा, उससे प्रतिबद्ध है और इस काम पर हम कमिटेड हैं।
Harish, do you agree with what KC Singh says, and also, a general view? And I'm looking at Twitter right now. Both of you gentlemen are also on Twitter, and you can imagine the explosion of responses we're getting at this time. That the fact that the Prime Minister has sort of stayed off commenting directly on this, on the terrible incidents that have happened, the intolerance war itself, by delaying actually getting into that debate and choosing to instead respond to a question on foreign soil, it has not really gone down well or had the kind of impact it perhaps should have. Harish?
Absolutely. In fact, Prime Minister Modi has quoted Gautama Buddha, and he's also spoken about Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
But he's not spoken about several loose cannons within the Bharatiya Janata Party itself, which actually undid the Bihar election for them. So if you really look at it, the question wasn't addressed in totality. Because the view was that, hey, listen, there are two images. One is an image which India wants outside, and the other image is what people expect of Mr. Narendra Modi internally.
Yeah.
Now the two are diametrically opposed at this point of time, and I think the answer that Mr. Modi gave quells the outside image a bit, but I don't think it does too much to the internal image, what India thinks of it. I think the single line I'd like to use, the phrase is the suspicion of silence.
Yeah.
Because when you have a Prime Minister who is very, very vocal on every other issue, when you have a Prime Minister who's possibly silent on some of the issues, then that's what I would call the suspicion of silence. I think PM Modi needs to break that suspicion of silence.
All right, so he needs to break that suspicion of silence. These live images that we have on our screen right now are of Prime Minister Modi at the Gandhi statue in London for a short photo op with Prime Minister Cameron visible there in the picture as well. He's the tallest in the picture, as a matter of fact. This is an event at the Gandhi statue in London shortly before Prime Minister Modi makes a historic speech in UK Parliament just about 13 minutes from now. I want to quickly bring in KC Singh once again on, a question that I've been curious about, and it's, it's more to do with process really, Mr. Singh, than anything else. But, you'd be a person who'd be able to answer it. How important is the prickliness of the past, diplomatically speaking, between two leaders? We constantly hear that, the interpersonal relationship, the body language between two leaders is extremely important for a successful visit. But given the prickliness of the past, how difficult is it for bureaucrats, for officials on the ground to make sure everything actually goes really smoothly, sir? If you can give us some insights into that.
I don't think they've had any personal discord between them.
Yeah.
If we just take the visa issue, that's one of them, and I think most European countries buried that matter. That was not just specific to Britain. It was equally specific to US, and we've seen the warmth which has developed between him and President Obama.
Yes.
So we should not really go by that. I think leaders are mature people. They are not children. They don't carry these things forward.
Yeah.
They are trying to match the interests of the two countries, and at the moment the interests are aligned. But what, as I said earlier, what has again sort of created a problem is the discourse adopted by BJP in the Bihar election,
right,
and in which Prime Minister did not openly take an exception or curb the hotheads of the party.
If I could,
as they were in,
if I could, add to that question, Mr. Singh,
yeah.
Have the events over the last few months sort of changed the game, changed the complexion of how Modi is received internationally? I mean, if we could compare what happened with his visit to the US and what happens now, are things very different? Has the the events of the last few weeks been a game changer of sorts as far as how Modi is perceived internationally?
See, Modi very quickly created a persona of a statesman by inviting the SAARC leaders to his swearing in, by going around meeting everyone and so on and so forth. So they all shelved the old thing and started espousing this persona of Mr. Modi, the statesman, including the diaspora, fawning over him and those big things. Now we have a family rally The question is, will it have the same kind of genuineness which the earlier rallies had?
Yes.
Because you're going with 100 million Biharis giving a thumbs down to you. So what are 50,000 expats going to do about it? So, you know, your desire to be loved abroad and fawned over is being contradicted by Indian images. So time has changed very rapidly in a year and 4 or 5 months that Prime Minister has been there. And he is unfortunately left so soon after the Bihar election that he would have been, ideally he would have been seen sitting here, you know, addressing the doubts raised by the older leadership, meeting them himself, addressing those issues, quietening down the feelings, rallying the party, and then moving out. But because this was already structured, so he's gone ahead in a sense as an injured Prime Minister. Because that force of Indian public opinion support, which was behind him, say, a year ago or 6 months ago, the foreigners can see it's not there. And that's why in the British Parliament, 55 members of Parliament, including the leader of Labour, signed a motion to say that human rights issues should be taken up with the Indian Prime Minister. And don't forget, when President Xi was there 3 weeks ago, the Speaker of their House actually landed a few blows to the discomfort of the Prime Minister of Britain. When he said, you know, President Xi, we had Aung San Suu Kyi, the symbol of democracy, address this House before you. So he was kind of rubbing it in, which President Xi took in normal course. Now the interesting thing will be, answering a BBC question is one thing. How does he address the Parliament? What does he say there? Because that will raise another.
That's in fact going to happen.
Or does he think it's already been addressed?
Correct. That's going to be very interesting, and we'll be live on that speech as well. It begins in just about 8 to 9 minutes from now. But I want to quickly go across to Smita and Lavina, my correspondents who are live with me in London right now. They've been at that press conference and they've been watching what's going on. Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Cameron at the Gandhi statue as well. Smita and Lavina, all eyes are going to be on the speech as well. Prime Minister Modi taking on, you know, some sensitive questions in this press conference. You know, many views on, you know, what the efficacy of those answers really were. But it's going to be very interesting to see what this address in UK Parliament is going to be like. Smita and Lavina.
Yes, of course, Gaurav. It's going to be very interesting to see in a few minutes what he has to say. The first question came, which was quite expected and controversial of that. Remember, he's addressing the joint session of the Parliament, and he would be the first time that Indian Prime Minister is doing that. So it's very crucial. He might be asked a lot of questions there. They had in all that that's been happening. There are a lot of people from the Member of Parliament who have raised issues before, but he clearly in his address, the joint address, said that he did not get time to come to the UK while there was no restriction on him. So it's very interesting as to how things are going to turn out. I have Smita here. Smita, you would like to add something, surely?
Yeah. You know, Shiv, I was there at that press conference inside while David Cameron and Narendra Modi addressed that press conference, and there seems to be a slight change. Yes, you know, increasingly Mr. Narendra Modi has actually stopped taking questions in press conferences. He doesn't do press conferences within the country itself, and we haven't seen him actually do even joint press conferences with most of the other world leaders, unless, you know, if you see the questions on the British side were actually much more hard-hitting. They were, the tone and tenor were much more muted on the Indian side. He gave those regular answers on intolerance, where he said that India is the land of Gandhi, the land of Buddha, and you know, where it's against our basic culture to kind of not protect people's rights. I in fact tried speaking to some of the British press members who were present there to, you know, gauge as to what did they make of his answers, but it looked like they were kind of little confused about it. Will he be more sort of clear in his tone in Parliament is, yes, something that all those here in UK too will be watching out for.
Smita and Lavina, stay with me. Live images coming to us right now from the UK Parliament. There you have it. People entering UK Parliament right now for Prime Minister Modi's historic address in the House. It's going to begin in just about 6 minutes from now, as a matter of fact. 9:20 is when it's expected to begin. That's when the Prime Minister will be making his speech. Not much clarity on precisely what the broad topics will be that Prime Minister Modi is expected to touch upon. Coming right off the back of a press conference where he has front-footed questions on intolerance, on not being welcome in the United Kingdom just a short, just a few months ago. And now Prime Minister making this speech in Parliament. All eyes on UK Parliament. These are live images coming to us. I want to quickly bring in a reaction from the Congress Party. We've got the phone line through with Brijesh Kalapa, national spokesperson for the Congress Party, on to get a first reaction from the opposition on Prime Minister Modi's answer on intolerance. Brijesh Kalapa, Narendra Modi is pretty much saying that there is no intolerance. India is intolerant of intolerance. The law is supreme in the land of Gandhi. What did you make of his answer?
No, I think he's clearly trying to avoid the answer, trying to avoid the question and not give a direct answer. And first of all, his several cabinet colleagues went on to say that the entire dissent, which the writers, scientists, artists and everybody else had put up, that it was all manufactured. And today, why did he not say the same thing when he was in Great Britain? Perhaps he should have stuck to the same stand and said that if he had any, courage of conviction, he should have said that this is, manufactured dissent and none of this exists. But he knows clearly that the international media has been highlighting this issue, has been flagging the issue consistently. It's not just Great Britain, but all over the world. There have been a series of news articles which state the kind of atrocities which are being committed, the kind of freedoms which are being clamped upon. And today the state has entered into people's bedrooms, people's kitchens, people's what they watch, what they see, and what they read, and so on and so forth. So this is not an easy question for him to answer, really. And really, if he had been a little less deaf, dumb, and blind, perhaps he could have given a very appropriate answer to this. But unfortunately, he is going to be, like the three monkeys of Gandhi. So really, what else can he possibly do?
Okay, so that's the first reaction from the Congress Party, saying that Narendra Modi didn't really answer the question on intolerance. It was a stock answer, is what he says. Harish, quick word in from you before we cut live to this speech. On the back of what KC Singh said about, this being an injured Prime Minister, really, going out there into the world, a first foreign tour, global stage, right after, some political humiliation here in the country. What would you as a viewer, what would you as an analyst, Harish, expect from this particular speech in Parliament?
Okay, he certainly is an injured Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister Modi actually knows how to manage injury. And I think that's what we've seen in times gone by. So there are three pieces here. One is this press conference, the second is the address to Parliament, and the third is Wembley. The most difficult one would have been the press conference. That's where people have been poking him in the eye. The Parliament is going to be an easier scene, and Wembley is going to be his big bonanza kind of a situation. So I do believe Wembley is going to define what a lot of overseas Indians are going to think of India in the future.
All right, so you're saying that the Wembley, the Wembley will serve as a kind of...
जहाँ तक यादें याद आती रहेगी